At Christmas, she flung my gift in the trash. I don't need handmade junk. 3 days after, she saw it in a gallery window with a $10,000 price tag. I still can't believe it. On Christmas morning, she looked me dead in the eye, tossed the piece of my soul I'd spent months crafting into the trash, and called it junk. She didn't even know what she was throwing away. Our apartment, a sleek glass box downtown, always felt a little too cold for me. That Christmas morning, the artificial scent of pine and the chill in the air only amplified the emptiness between us, foreshadowing a moment that would change everything. I'm Ethan, 37, and I work with wood. But this isn't your weekend DIY stuff. I'm talking about museum-quality pieces, hand-carved inlays, rare hardwoods, the kind of work that devours hundreds of hours and commands thousands when it's done right. I've been at this for 15 years, and I'm damn good. Chloe and I had been together for 3 years. She was a finance shark, made serious money, lived that corporate dream with a high-rise apartment and expensive tastes. And she never, ever truly got what I did. To her, working with your hands was what you resorted to when you couldn't land a real job. Her little comments, they were never huge, but they always stung. When her friends asked about me, she'd dismissively say I was figuring things out or between projects. Never he's an artist, never he's a craftsman. Just vague enough to make me sound unemployed. I swallowed it, because I loved her. Or at least, I thought I did. Maybe I'd just grown used to feeling like I wasn't enough, like my work only mattered if it came with a corporate salary and a benefits package. That Christmas, I wanted to create something undeniable. Something special, something that would scream how much I cared, something utterly unique that she couldn't buy in any high-end store. I poured 3 months of my life into a jewelry box, crafted from rich walnut and luminous maple, two of the most exquisite hardwoods to work with. Every single surface had intricate, hand-carved details, inlaid patterns that shifted and shimmered as the light played across them. I'd engineered hidden compartments with magnetic locks, the kind of exquisite craftsmanship where every joint vanished, every surface was smooth as silk. The sort of piece you'd spot in a gallery, priced at 5 figures. Inside the main secret compartment, the one she would never find, I placed a delicate silver and moonstone pendant. It was beautiful, meaningful, something I imagined she would cherish. I worked late into the nights for weeks, my hands a tapestry of calluses, one on top of the other. But it felt worth it. Or so I believed. I wrapped it with meticulous care, and Christmas morning dawned with all the trimmings, a twinkling tree, candles casting a soft glow, and I'd even made her favorite eggs Benedict. I handed her the box. And her face just fell. I watched it happen, that raw moment when disappointment crushes someone's expression, like a kid hoping for a PlayStation and unwrapping socks instead. She picked up the jewelry box like it was something she'd found in a thrift store. She turned it over once, maybe twice, not even close enough to truly see the details, the intricate inlay work, the flawless seams, the way the wood grain flowed in perfect harmony. Then she asked, her voice laced with an almost condescending edge, "Is this handmade? Why isn't it from Tiffany?" It was a slap. Like I had personally offended her by not spending enough money. Like the hundreds of hours didn't matter. Like the skill, the artistry, meant nothing next to a brand name on a box. I tried to explain. Told her about the time, the thought, the hidden compartments she hadn't even discovered yet, the special something tucked inside. She wasn't listening. She just stood up, walked into the kitchen, and then I heard it, the trash can lid opening, then closing with a hollow thud. That sound, it echoed in my head. I sat there for a second, my mind refusing to process what had just happened. Then, from the other room, I heard her on the phone, actually laughing. She was telling whoever was on the other end that I'd given her a wooden craft project for Christmas, like from a high school shop class. And then she said the words that just shattered something inside me, "I don't want handmade junk." Junk. After 3 months of relentless work, hundreds of hours, a piece of my very soul carved into wood. It hit differently. Something broke in me right then, not with a dramatic crash, but quietly, like a thread snapping. I didn't yell. Didn't argue. didn't even try to make her understand. What was the point? She'd made her position devastatingly clear. I just walked into the kitchen, pulled the jewelry box from the trash, and gently wiped off the coffee grounds stuck to its surface. It still smelled faintly of cinnamon from the Christmas candles. The wood felt cool and solid in my hands, more real than anything Chloe had said to me in months. I rewrapped it, put it in my car, and drove straight to Brenda's gallery downtown. Brenda owned the place, and I'd sold a few smaller pieces through her before. She knew my work, knew what I was capable of. When I walked in, she could tell instantly something was wrong. I probably looked like hell. I handed her the box without a word, and she unwrapped it slowly, her hands reverently tracing the surface, feeling the grain, the inlays, the flawless joints. The way a true craftsman respects another's work. Then she found it, the hidden compartment Chloe had never bothered to look for. She opened it, her eyes widening as she saw the delicate pendant inside. Brenda looked up at me, a profound respect in her gaze, and said this was museum-level work. Not just a jewelry box, but a genuine art piece, a complete story. She turned it over again, examining every angle, every detail, before announcing, "I need to call Mark." Mark was an independent appraiser she worked with, the kind of guy who handled high-end estate sales and prestigious gallery acquisitions. He was the real deal. He arrived an hour later and spent 20 minutes with the box, completely silent. He examined it from every angle, opened and closed the compartments, felt its weight and balance. Finally, he looked at Brenda and declared, "This could easily sell for $12,000. Maybe even $15,000, if we find the right buyer." Brenda nodded, deep in thought for a moment. Then she looked at me and said she wanted to price it at $10,500 for her New Year's collection, as a luxury holiday art piece. She explained that pricing it slightly below Mark's estimate would create urgency with serious collectors, while still reflecting its true value. We'd split it 60/40ths, with me getting the larger share. I just stood there, trying to process it all. $10,500. For the junk Chloe had tossed in the trash. For the gift she hadn't even fully opened. For the pendant she'd never seen. Brenda must have caught the expression on my face, because she gently placed a hand on my arm and said, "Ethan, whoever didn't appreciate this doesn't deserve your work." I nodded, but words just wouldn't come. 3 days later, the jewelry box was in the gallery window, front and center, illuminated by a spotlight. Professional photographs, showing every intricate detail, adorned a small placard that read "Luxury Holiday Art Piece," with price, $10,500, displayed in elegant script. It was right there, on the main street, for everyone to see. I didn't tell Chloe. Not a word. Didn't send her a picture. I just let it sit there, for the world to witness, and let fate do its thing. 3 days after that, Chloe saw it. She was walking back from lunch with some coworkers, probably discussing her latest deal or some corporate achievement, and she passed right by Brenda's gallery. I wasn't there, but Brenda recounted it later. She said Chloe stopped dead in her tracks, like she'd seen a ghost. She stood staring at the window for a solid 5 minutes, and Brenda watched from inside as her face cycled through 10 different emotions: confusion, then recognition, then shock, then something that looked like panic. Chloe pressed her face closer to the glass, taking in the inlays, the wood grain, and then she saw the price tag, $10,500. Brenda said Chloe's hand flew to her mouth. She just stood there, shaking her head, as if she couldn't believe it. Then, she must have seen the pendant inside, the one she'd never bothered to find, tucked away in the secret compartment because she was too busy being disappointed. My phone started blowing up about 20 minutes later. Text after frantic text, all in caps. She wanted to know what her jewelry box was doing in a gallery window. Why it had that price tag. Why I'd never told her it was worth so much. She claimed it was hers, that I'd given it to her for Christmas, that I had no right to sell it without her permission. I let the messages pile up for a while, just watched them come in. There was a quiet satisfaction in knowing she finally understood what she'd casually thrown away. When I finally replied, I kept it simple, cold. The handmade junk found someone who appreciates it. She showed up at my apartment that evening. I could hear her coming down the hallway, her heels clicking aggressively on the floor, that distinct, angry walk she had. She knocked, and when I opened the door, she pushed past me without waiting for an invitation. She immediately launched into a tirade, demanding to know what the hell I was thinking, why I'd put her gift in a gallery, saying I'd embarrassed her in front of everyone who might see it. I just stood there, letting her vent, letting her burn through all that anger. Because I knew what was coming next. Sure enough, after about 5 minutes of yelling, her tone shifted completely. She stopped mid-sentence, took a breath, and suddenly her voice became soft. "Maybe I overreacted on Christmas," she said, almost demurely. "I didn't really mean what I said. The jewelry box is actually beautiful, now that I think about it." I almost laughed. The switch was so obvious, so calculated. She wasn't sorry about hurting me. She was sorry about missing out on $10,000. She sat down on my couch like she still owned the place, crossed her legs, and tried to flash me that forced smile she used when she wanted something. She started talking about our 3 years together, how she'd supported my work even when it wasn't making money, how she'd let me use her apartment as a workspace. Then she said it, the thing I knew was coming: "I think I deserve a share of the sale." "Don't you?" She tried to make it sound reasonable, like it was just common sense. Claimed that technically it had been a gift to her, so legally she might have a claim. And besides, we were supposed to be a team. The fact that she'd already thought about the legal angle, had prepared this whole rehearsed speech, told me everything I needed to know. I explained, very calmly, that she'd thrown it away. That she'd called it junk. That she'd forfeited any claim to it the moment it hit the bottom of that trash can. I told her the jewelry box was mine now, my work, my art, and whatever happened with it was my business. She didn't like that answer. Her face hardened, and she reverted to anger. Said I was being petty and vindictive, punishing her for one mistake. One mistake. As if 3 years of little comments and put-downs didn't matter. As if Christmas morning was just a tiny slip-up. I didn't argue. I just asked her to leave. After a few more minutes of trying to guilt me, she finally did. The jewelry box sold 2 days later. A private collector, specializing in artisan furniture and functional art, the kind of guy with more money than he knew what to do with. He paid the full asking price, $10,500. Didn't even try to negotiate. Brenda called me that afternoon, her voice buzzing with excitement. She said the check would be ready in a few days, and the collector wanted to know if I had more pieces available. I told her I'd need some time, but yes, I had ideas. She then told me he was interested in commissioning something custom, thinking around $12,000 for a larger piece, maybe a desk or a display cabinet. $12,000 for a single commission. More than I'd made in the last 6 months combined. My cut from the jewelry box sale was $6,300 after the gallery took their 40%. It was the most money I'd ever made from a single piece. I deposited that check, and for the first time in years, I didn't have to worry about rent, or materials, or whether I could afford to keep doing what I loved. A few days after the sale, Chloe texted me again. Said she needed to talk, wanted to meet for coffee. I ignored it. She texted again the next day, saying she thought we should put the relationship on pause for a while, that she needed space to think. I knew exactly what she was doing. She expected me to panic, to beg her not to leave, to promise I'd change. Instead, I just replied with one word, "Okay." That wasn't the response she wanted. I could tell because the next text came fast. Asked if that was really all I had to say, if I didn't want to fight for us. I didn't respond. For the next week, she kept trying, texting, calling. I watched it happen from a distance, like it was someone else's drama. Then she showed up at my apartment again. But this time, she wasn't angry. She was crying. She said she'd been thinking about everything, that she realized she'd made a mistake, that she'd taken me for granted. She said she wanted to try again, that she'd changed, that she understood now what my work meant to me. She was saying all the right things, hitting all the emotional notes. If this had been a month earlier, I might have believed her. But I asked her one question: if the jewelry box had sold for $50 instead of $10,000, would you be here right now? She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. I saw the truth in her eyes before she even tried to lie. She stammered something about how that wasn't the point, how it was about us and our relationship. But we both knew it was exactly the point. She didn't care about me, or my work, or the gift I tried to give her. She cared about what it was worth, about being associated with success instead of what she saw as failure. I told her we were done, truly done, and she needed to leave. She stood there for a moment, and I could see her trying to decide whether to cry harder or get angry. Finally, she chose angry. She said I was making a huge mistake, throwing away something great, that I'd regret this when I was alone and struggling again. I closed the door while she was still talking. Over the next few weeks, things started changing fast. The collector's commission came through, $12,000 for a custom display cabinet with glass shelving and hidden LED lighting. Brenda introduced me to 2 more galleries that wanted to carry my work. An arts and culture magazine did a piece on local artisans making museum-quality functional art, and somehow, I ended up in it, with a full-page photo of the jewelry box and a quote about how craftsmanship was becoming a lost art. My phone started ringing with inquiries, people wanting custom pieces, galleries wanting meetings, interior designers asking about my availability. For the first time in my career, I had more work than I could handle. I started looking at studio spaces, small places where I could work and maybe display a few pieces. I found one in an old warehouse district being converted into artist lofts. The rent was more than I'd ever paid for anything, but with commissions rolling in and a waiting list forming, I could actually afford it. 2 months after the breakup, I signed a lease on my studio space and started setting up what would become my first real workshop and gallery combined. The place was in a renovated warehouse on the east side, one of those industrial buildings with exposed brick and huge windows that let in perfect natural light. It was bigger than I needed, but I had plans, commissions lined up, and for the first time in my life, I could actually see a future doing what I loved without constantly worrying about money. I spent weeks getting the space ready, building workbenches, installing proper lighting, setting up a small display area near the front where people could see finished pieces. Brenda helped me connect with other artists in the building, and the whole place had this incredible creative energy I'd never experienced before. Like everyone was genuinely supporting each other, not just competing. The magazine article brought in more attention than I ever expected. My website, which had been practically dormant for years, suddenly started getting serious traffic. People were emailing me about commissions, asking about price ranges, wanting to see more of my work. I was getting requests for everything from jewelry boxes to full dining room tables, and I actually had to start turning people down or pushing timelines out 6 months because I couldn't keep up. That's when Sarah came into the picture. She was a marketing consultant specializing in helping artists and small creative businesses build their brands. She reached out after seeing the magazine article. She loved my work and thought I was seriously undercharging, that I needed better presentation and a real strategy for growth if I wanted to turn this into something truly sustainable. We met for coffee, and I expected some corporate pitch about social media metrics and brand synergy. Instead, she just asked me about my process, about what inspired me, about why I chose wood over other materials. She got it in a way Chloe never did. She understood that the work itself was the point, not just the money it could make. We started working together, and she completely transformed how I presented myself to the world. She redesigned my website, making it professional with high-quality photos of my pieces against clean backgrounds, wrote descriptions that made the work sound as special as it actually was without being pretentious. She set up an Instagram account for me and taught me how to document my process, how to show people the hours of work that went into each piece, the planning, the mistakes, the problem-solving. She connected me with a photographer specializing in artisan work, and we did a whole shoot of my existing pieces, plus the new commission I was working on. Within a month, my following shot from basically zero to over 5,000 people, and half of them were serious collectors and interior designers with money to spend. Sarah also helped me prepare for my studio opening. I'd envisioned it as a small gathering, maybe a few friends and the other artists in the building, but she convinced me to make it an actual event. She reached out to local art blogs, invited journalists from the magazine that had featured me, made sure the other galleries I was working with knew about it, and even got a local wine bar to sponsor drinks for the evening. The night of the opening, I was nervous as hell, worried that nobody would show up, or that it would be awkward standing around an empty studio. But within the first hour, the place was packed. Collectors, other artists, people from the magazine, even a few interior designers who'd driven in from out of town specifically for this. Brenda came, bringing some of her gallery clients. I sold 3 pieces that night, including one I'd just finished that morning, a walnut writing desk with secret compartments that went for $8,000. Chloe showed up, too, which I didn't expect. She stood outside for a while. I could see her through the window, just watching the crowd, witnessing the success, seeing everything she told me would never happen. She looked different, tired, maybe, or just less put together than usual, like she hadn't been sleeping well. She didn't come in, didn't try to talk to me, just stood there for about 10 minutes and then left. Part of me felt a pang of something like pity, but mostly, I just felt nothing. She was part of a different life, a version of myself that didn't exist anymore. I'd moved so far past that person that seeing her was like looking at an old photograph of someone I used to know. Sarah saw her, too, and asked if I was okay. I realized I actually was. More than okay. Honestly, I was genuinely happy, for the first time in years. Sarah and I started spending more time together outside of work stuff. It happened gradually, naturally, without any of the pressure or judgment that had defined my relationship with Chloe. We'd meet for coffee to discuss marketing strategy and end up talking for hours about art and life and what actually mattered to us. She came by the studio sometimes just to watch me work, said she found the process meditative, the way the wood transformed under my hands. She'd sit quietly in the corner, reading or sketching, while I carved and sanded. One day, I made her a small wooden pendant. Nothing elaborate, just a simple piece of cherry wood shaped like a leaf, with a leather cord. I gave it to her almost as a joke, told her it was payment for all her help. And she actually teared up. She said it was the most thoughtful gift anyone had ever given her, that she'd treasure it forever. And she wore it every single day after that, never took it off. The contrast wasn't lost on me. Chloe had thrown away a museum-quality piece worth thousands of dollars because it didn't come in a Tiffany box. Sarah cherished a $20 pendant because of what it meant, and the fact that I'd made it specifically for her. Sarah once asked me why I worked with wood instead of something easier, something more profitable like metalwork or sculpture. I told her the truth, that wood had a memory, that every piece told a story through its grain and its flaws and the way it had grown. She looked at me with this expression I'd never seen from Chloe, like she actually understood. She said, "Ethan, that's exactly why your work matters. In a world of mass-produced garbage designed to fall apart, you're making things that will outlive all of us." She understood that what I did wasn't just about making furniture or boxes. It was about creating something permanent, something real, something that connected people to the natural world and to the human hands that shaped it. 6 months after my studio opened, I had a waiting list of clients stretching into the next year, 3 galleries regularly carrying my work, and enough commissions to keep me busy and profitable indefinitely. I hired an assistant to help with the basic work, sanding, finishing, material prep, while I focused on design and the detailed carving that made each piece unique. Sarah's marketing had transformed my craft into an actual, sustainable business. And she'd done it without changing what made the work special in the first place, without pushing me to mass-produce or cut corners or compromise my standards. We'd started dating officially by then, though it felt like we'd been together much longer, like we'd skipped all the awkward early relationship stuff and gone straight to being partners who deeply understood each other. I made Sarah a jewelry box for her birthday. Spent 2 months on it, crafted it from figured maple with ebony inlays in a pattern that looked like branches reaching across the surface. It had the same hidden compartments as the one I'd made for Chloe, but this one felt completely different while I was making it. It felt like joy instead of obligation, like I was creating something for someone who would truly appreciate every single detail. When I gave it to her, she opened every compartment carefully, taking her time, and found the little treasures I'd hidden inside: a ticket stub from a museum we'd visited, a dried flower from a walk in the park, a small sketch she'd made of my hands while I was working. She cried, told me she'd never received anything so beautiful. And I believed her, because I could see it in her face, that genuine, profound appreciation for the work and the thought behind it. Chloe tried to reach out one more time. Sent a long email about how she'd been wrong, how she'd realized what she lost, how she wanted another chance to prove she could be different. I read it once and deleted it. She'd had her chance. Hundreds of them, actually, over 3 years. And she'd spent every single one making me feel like I wasn't enough, like my work didn't matter, like I should be grateful she put up with my little hobby. Sarah never made me feel that way. Never once suggested that what I did was anything less than important and meaningful. She saw value where Chloe saw junk. She saw an artist where Chloe saw a failed corporate employee. She saw a future where Chloe saw a waste of time and potential. Looking back now, that Christmas morning when Chloe threw my work in the trash was honestly the best thing that could have happened to me. It forced me to stop accepting being treated like I didn't matter. It forced me to put my work out there for people who would actually appreciate it. And ultimately, it led me to someone who saw me for who I actually was, instead of who she wanted me to be. Chloe lost me the moment she threw that jewelry box away. But she didn't just lose a boyfriend. She lost someone who would have made her life more beautiful, more meaningful, more real. Sarah didn't just help me build a business. She helped me build a life worth living. One where my work mattered, and I mattered. And that's worth more than any price tag could ever show. This whole journey, from heartbreak to finding my true path, it makes me wonder. Have you ever had a moment of profound disrespect or betrayal lead you to something incredible? I'm reading all your comments, so let me know your stories down below.